Mr. Blifil was satisfied. He believed she was shy, like all young ladies on their first visit from a lover. He was confident that she admired him, and of course he had not the least idea about Tom. When Blifil left, Mr. Weston went to find his Sophia. He told her, with kisses, that she was his only joy on earth. She must choose whatever clothes and jewels she pleased. He had no other use for his fortune than to make her happy. He was so loving that Sophia thought she would never have a better opportunity to tell him her feelings. She thanked her father many times for his kindness, then fell to her knees. She begged him not to make her the most miserable thing on earth by forcing her to marry a man she hated. "I ask you this, dear sir," said she, "since you are so very kind to tell me your happiness depends on mine." "What?" said Weston, staring wildly. "Oh, sir," continued Sophia, "I cannot live with Mr. Blifil. To force me to marry him would be to kill me." "You can't live with Mr. Blifil?" said Weston. "No, sir, I can't," answered Sophia. "Then die, and to hell with you!" cried he. "Can the best of fathers break my heart?" cried Sophia. "Pooh! Pooh! Can marriage kill you?" "Nonsense!" cried he. "Oh, sir," answered she, "such a marriage is worse than death. I hate him more than I can say." "You will marry him," shouted Weston, "and if you don't, I'll not give you a single penny. If I saw you starving in the street, I would not give you a piece of bread." He then pushed her away so violently that her face hit the floor, and he burst out of the room. Chapter 9. Blifil's Revenge. When Weston flew into the hall, he saw Tom, and told him what had happened. Tom was astonished, but offered to help. "Go to her," said the furious man. "See what you can do." Tom went instantly to Sophia, and found her rising from the ground where her father had left her. She had tears in her eyes and blood on her lips. "Oh, Mr. Jones," she cried, "why did you save my life? My death would have made us both happier." "My heart bleeds, dearest Sophia," said Tom. "Your cruel father told me everything, and he himself sent me here." "He sent you? Surely you are dreaming," answered Sophia. "He sent me to persuade you to marry my hateful rival. Promise that you will never give yourself to Blifil." "That hateful name," said she. "I promise I will never give him what it is in my power to keep from him." "Now then," cried Tom, "please tell me that I may hope." "Hope for what?" said Sophia sadly. "I do not care about my own ruin, but I cannot make my father miserable." The lovers stood in silence for a moment, her hand in his. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a terrible roar. Mrs. Weston had just told her brother Sophia's secret. The idea of a marriage between Tom and his daughter had never once entered Mr. Weston's head. He believed equality in fortune was as necessary to a marriage as difference of sex. He thought his daughter could no more fall in love with a poor man as fall in love with an animal. He was therefore violently shocked by his sister's news. Sophia turned pale at the terrible sound of her father's approach, and fainted in her lover's arms. When Mr. Weston burst open the door and saw this, all his anger disappeared. He ran to his daughter, roaring for help. Soon servants, aunt and priest arrived with water and medicine, and Sophia was carried off by the women. Now Mr. Weston turned to Tom, and his anger returned. If Mr. Supple, who was a strong man, had not held him back, battle would have followed. Mr. Weston now swore and cursed like a countryman at a dog-fight. Very calmly, Tom said, "Sir, I cannot lift my hand against the father of Sophia." These words made Mr. Weston curse and struggle even more, and Mr. Supple begged Tom to leave. Tom thanked him for this advice, and immediately departed. The next morning, immediately after breakfast, Mr. Weston rode to Mr. Allworthy's house and shouted at him.
"There! You really have done a fine piece of work."
"What can be the matter, Mr. Weston?" said Allworthy.
"What's the matter? My daughter has fallen in love with your bastard, that's all. But I won't give her a penny. I always thought it was a bad thing to bring up a bastard like a gentleman and let him visit fine houses."
"I am extremely sorry," cried Allworthy.
"To hell with your sorrow, sir," said Weston. "It will do me no good when I have lost my only child, my poor Sophie, who was the joy of my heart. But I will throw her out of the house. She will beg and starve in the streets."
"But, sir," said Allworthy, "why did you give Tom so many opportunities to be with her? Did you not see any signs?"
"Who could have known? The devil did not come to visit her. He came to hunt with me. I never saw them kiss once. But she will marry Mr. Blifil, I promise you. Just keep your bastard away from my house. If I catch him, I'll kill him."
Mr. Weston then rode back home to lock up his daughter. Mr. Blifil, who had watched this scene in silence, now said to his uncle, "I am sorry, sir, that Mr. Jones has once again upset you. If you knew what I knew about him—"
"What? Do you know anything worse than I already know?"
This was Blifil's opportunity to get revenge on Tom. "The very day your life was in danger," he began, "when myself and all your family were in tears, Mr. Jones drank and sang and roared with happiness, and then he beat me."
"What?" cried Allworthy. "Did he dare to strike you?"
"He did," replied Blifil. "That very evening, Mr. Thwackum and I were walking in the fields, and we saw him lying with a woman. When we spoke to him, Jones struck me down and beat Mr. Thwackum too."
"Oh, child," said his uncle, "in your goodness you have kept silent about this too long."
Mr. Allworthy first called for Mr. Thwackum, who showed him the black and blue marks that still remained on his chest. Then he spent some hours alone, deciding how to punish Tom. The poor young man came into dinner as usual, but his heart was so heavy that he could not eat. After dinner, Mr. Allworthy spoke to him for a long time. He reminded Tom of all the bad things he had done in the past, and told him what he had heard from Blifil. He ended by saying that if these recent things were true, Tom must leave forever. Poor Tom could not defend himself, as Blifil's story was partly true. His heart was almost broken already, and his spirits were so low that he could deny nothing. He asked Mr. Allworthy to forgive him, and hoped he did not deserve the greatest punishment in the world. Mr. Allworthy answered that he had forgiven Tom too often, gave him an envelope, and said good-bye. Though the envelope contained £500, the gossips afterwards said that Tom was sent away penniless, and even naked, by his cruel father. Tom was told to leave the house immediately. He could send for his clothes later. And so he walked away in a dream. After about a mile, he stopped to rest by a little stream. His angry thoughts flew in many directions, and it was some time before he was cool enough to consider what to do next. First, he decided to write to Sophia. The thought of leaving her nearly broke his heart, but he could not ruin her. He emptied his pockets to find paper, and he wrote, "Madam, I must fly forever from your dear sight. When you hear of my hard fortune, do not be concerned. After losing you, nothing else is important. Oh, my Sophia, it is hard to leave you. Please forget me. May angels protect you." Then he walked away, wondering how to send the letter. After some time, he realized that his pockets were empty. He had left everything beside the stream. He hurried back. On the way, he met his old friend, the gamekeeper. They returned to the stream together to look for Tom's things. They looked everywhere, but found nothing. This was not surprising, as they did not look in the gamekeeper's pockets. Black George was a dishonest fellow, and did not mention that he had found Tom's things earlier. At last, Tom gave up hope of finding his belongings. He decided to forget them, even Mr. Allworthy's envelope, which he had never opened. He then asked George to take his letter to Sophia's house and give it to her maid. George did this gladly, and returned with this letter for Tom. "Sir, as you know my father's temper, please avoid him. I wish I could send you more comfort, but believe this: nothing will make me give my hand or heart to another." Tom kissed the letter 100 times, but as it did not change his situation, he said good-bye to George and set off for the nearest town. Chapter 10. Sophia makes a decision. Tom slept that night at an inn and sent for his clothes. They arrived next morning with a letter from Blifil, which advised him to change his life with the help of God. It also repeated Mr. Allworthy's wish for Tom to leave forever. This caused a flood of tears, but soon they dried. "I must obey Mr. Allworthy," Tom decided. "I will go this moment. But where? And what can I do without money?" He decided to go to sea. But before we follow him, we must return to see what has happened to the charming Sophia. The morning that Mr. Jones left, Mr. Weston allowed his sister to unlock Sophia's door. "I have promised your father," said Mrs. Weston, "to make you agree to marry Mr. Blifil. What is your objection?" "A very solid one, madam," said Sophia. "I hate him." "Sophie!" said her aunt. "In the world it is out of fashion, romantic nonsense, to want to like your husband." "But I will not marry Blifil," said Sophia.
Weston, who was listening outside, then entered the room, shouting, "You, sister, have taught her to be disobedient. She was very obedient when she was a little child, before you took her away to teach her the ways of the world."
"I, brother? I? It is you, with your terrible country ways, who have destroyed all my good teaching." Brother and sister then had a loud argument, until Mrs. Weston angrily called her carriage and left his house.
"Sir,"
cried Sophia,
"I am sure your sister loves you. She has left you her whole fortune in her will."
These words shocked Weston. Might his sister now change her will? He hurried after her carriage to apologize. They returned together, and Mrs. Weston now suggested that the marriage take place as soon as possible. Blifil was invited to visit Sophia again the next day.
"Go to her, boy," cried Weston. "Allworthy and I can finish the agreement today. You can marry her tomorrow."
Blifil did not object. Sophia's tears brightened her eyes, and her breasts rose higher with her sighs. His desire for her was mixed with pleasure at defeating his hated rival, but most of all he wanted Sophia's wealth. So Blifil pretended to love her, and said that she loved him. When the agreement was signed and the lawyers had left, Sophia's maid came running to see her.
"Dear madam,"
said Mrs. Honour,
"do not be shocked at what I have to tell you. Just now I heard my master telling Mr. Supple to get a licence for you to be married tomorrow." "Honour," said Sophia, "I am shocked. What can I do?" "Well, madam, if I was in your place, I would not find it difficult, for Mr. Blifil is a charming, sweet man." "Honour, I would kill myself first," said Sophia. "Oh, madam, don't frighten me with such wicked thoughts." "Honour," continued Sophia, "I know what I must do. I must leave my father's house this very night, and if you are my friend, you will keep me company." "Oh, I will, madam, to the world's end," answered Honour. "But where can you possibly go?" "To London," said Sophia. "I know a lady of quality there, who is a distant relation of mine. I met her when I was staying with my aunt, and she often invited me to visit her. So we will go to London." We left Tom on the road to Bristol, planning to seek his fortune at sea. When it was almost dark, he stopped at an inn for dinner, and slept a while in a chair by the fire. In the middle of the night there was a great thundering at the gate, and when the landlord opened it, the kitchen was immediately full of soldiers in red coats, all calling for beer. Tom woke up and enjoyed their company. When it was time for the soldiers to move on, they began to argue loudly about the bill. Tom stopped the argument by offering to pay. The men gave him a cheer and invited him to join them. The redcoats were fighting for King George. They were marching against a rebel army from the north. Tom supported their cause and said he would go with his new friends. They marched for a day, with much joking and laughing, and in the evening they arrived at a place where an old captain was waiting for them. The captain was surprised to see that Tom was dressed like a gentleman. He invited Tom to dinner with himself and the rest of the officers. After dinner they talked about the war. One of the officers, called Northerton, was drunk. He took a dislike to Tom, and waited for a chance to make him look foolish. The men decided to drink to the health of their ladies. When it was Tom's turn, he named Miss Sophia Weston. He could not imagine that anybody present knew her. "I knew a Sophia Weston," said Northerton. "She went to bed with half the young men of Bath. Is it the same woman?" "Impossible," said Tom. "Miss Weston is a young lady of great fashion and fortune." "Why, so she is," said Northerton, who had seen Sophia walking in Bath with her aunt. He described her exactly, and added that her father had a great property in Somerset. Tom did not really understand this kind of joke, so he turned to him and said, "Please joke about something else." "Joke?" cried Northerton. "I do not joke. Why, I remember that Tom French had both her and her aunt in bed." "Then I must tell you that you are a liar," cried Tom. Northerton cursed him and threw a bottle at his head. Tom fell to the ground and lay still. Northerton saw blood flowing from Tom's head, and decided it was time to leave. But the captain stopped him and asked, "Was it true?" "Not a bit," said Northerton. "I was just having a joke." "Then," said the captain, "as your joke has killed Mr. Jones, you are my prisoner, sir, and deserve to be hanged." But Northerton broke away and escaped into the night. Chapter 11. Tom finds a friend. Tom lay on the floor with no sign of life in him. The captain sent some soldiers to chase after Northerton, and then sent a servant to get a doctor. Some officers picked up Tom's bloody body from the floor and put it in a chair. They saw that he still breathed, and began to argue about what to do. Soon the doctor arrived, and ordered his patient to be taken instantly to bed. After seeing Tom, the doctor returned downstairs, where the captain was sitting with the landlady of the inn. "Will he die?" asked the captain. "We will all die, sir," answered the doctor. "But do you think he is in danger?" asked the landlady. "I cannot say," said the doctor. "It's a terrible thing to spill human blood," said the landlady, "except when it is the blood of our enemies. I hope all our enemies are killed, for then the war will end and our taxes will be lower." Later that night, Tom woke and called for the captain. He said he felt much better, and told the captain he needed a sword so that he could fight Mr. Northerton. "I love your brave spirit, my boy," said the old captain, "but after such a blow and so much loss of blood, you are weak, and you must rest." "But what about my honour?" cried Tom. "Your honour must wait, young gentleman," said the captain, "for I am afraid Mr. Northerton has escaped." The captain left, and Tom slept again. When he woke, it was late in the afternoon, and he called for some tea. When the landlady brought it up, she said that the doctor had gone, and all the soldiers and officers had marched away. Tom asked her to prepare some food, and to send him a barber. He felt in perfect health and spirits. While he was waiting for the barber, he chose some clean clothes to wear. The barber soon arrived with soap and hot water, and began to shave Tom very slowly. Tom asked him to hurry. "I never hurry," said the barber. "Festina lente, I say." "You speak Latin," said Tom. "You are a man of learning." "A poor one, sir," said the barber. "Indeed, learning has ruined me. My father wanted me to be a dancing teacher, but instead of learning to dance, I learned to read Latin. He hated me for that, and left all his money to my brothers." "I would like to get to know you better," said Tom. Will you do me the honour of drinking a glass with me tonight?
Sir, I will do you 20 honours, if you wish.
How can you do that, my friend?
Why, I will drink a whole bottle with you, if you wish, for you are a good man, and I love a good conversation.
Jones now walked downstairs, neatly dressed, looking so handsome that one of the servant girls fell violently in love with him in 5 minutes. While he ate his dinner, the barber sat in the kitchen with the landlady. "He is no young gentleman," she told the barber. "I have heard he was turned away from Mr. Allworthy's house."
"A servant, then?" said the barber. "What's his name?"
"Jones, he told me, but perhaps he uses a false name."
"If his name is Jones, he told you the truth," said the barber strangely. "And perhaps he is Mr. Allworthy's son."
After dinner, Tom called for a bottle, and the barber joined him. Tom poured out a glass of wine and raised it. "To your good health, doctissime tonsorum," he said.
"Ago tibi gratias domine," replied the barber.
Then he asked,
"Sir, is it possible that your name is Jones?"
"It is," said Tom.
"How strange," said the barber. "Mr. Jones, you don't know me, which is not surprising, as you only saw me once, when you were very young. How is the good Mr. Allworthy?"
"You seem to know me," said Tom a little suspiciously.
"May I ask, sir, why you are travelling this way?"
"Fill the glass, Mr. Barber, and ask no more questions."
"Oh, I apologize, sir. When a gentleman like you travels without servants, we may suppose he is in casu incognito. But I promise you I can keep a secret. That is unusual in your profession, Mr. Barber." "Ah, sir," answered the barber, "I was not always a barber. Non si male nunc et olim sic erit. I have spent most of my life among gentlemen. I have a great respect for you. People talked about the good nature you showed to Black George, and they loved you for it. I am your friend."
Every miserable man needs a friend, and Tom was not only miserable, he was also open-hearted. The barber's behaviour and his bits of poor Latin suggested that he was no ordinary fellow. So Tom told him why he was going to sea. The barber noticed that there was one thing that Tom left out of his story. Though he said that he was Blifil's rival in love, he carefully avoided naming the young lady concerned. When the barber asked him, Tom paused a moment, then said, "I trust you, sir. Her name is Sophia Weston."
"Mr. Weston's daughter is now a woman?" cried the barber. "I remember her father as a boy. Well, tempus edax rerum."
Tom was tired now, and went up to his room to rest. In the morning he sent for the doctor, but he was not to be found, and the barber was called instead. Tom was surprised. "I asked for the doctor, Mr. Barber," he said. "I want him to open my bandage."
"Well, sir," replied the barber, "I am also a doctor, and if you wish me to open your bandage, I am willing."
Though Tom was not very confident, the man seemed serious, so he allowed him to open the bandage and look at his head. When the barber saw Tom's wound, he made shocked noises. Tom suspected he was joking.
"Stop playing the fool," he said angrily. "What is your opinion? Answer seriously."
"Why then," cried the other, If I may put on a clean bandage, I promise you will soon be well." "Well, Mr. Barber, or Mr. Doctor, or Mr. Barber-Doctor," said Tom, as the new bandage was applied, "you are one of the strangest men I ever met. There must be something very surprising in your story. I would like to hear it." "You shall hear it," said his friend. "But first, let me lock the door, so that we are not interrupted." He did so, and then said, "I must begin, sir, by telling you that you have been my greatest enemy." "I? Your enemy?" said Tom, amazed. "Please don't be angry, sir, for you were just a baby and did not mean to harm me. I think you will understand everything when I tell you my name. Have you ever heard, sir, the name of Partridge? A man who was honoured to be called your father, and who was ruined by that honour." "I have heard that name," said Tom, "and I have always believed that I am that man's son." "Well, sir, I am Partridge. But you are not my son." Chapter 12. An angel appears to a woman in trouble. Partridge was sure that this extraordinary meeting with the person who caused all his bad fortune was a sign that good fortune was coming, so he was determined to follow Tom. Tom said he would do everything in his power to help the unfortunate man. "But," he added, "perhaps you think I will be able to pay you, Mr. Partridge, but really I cannot." And he showed Partridge his purse. Now, Partridge firmly believed that Tom was Mr. Allworthy's son, and he could not imagine why that good man would send his son away. He therefore believed that Tom had made up the story and that he was actually running away from his father. If Partridge could persuade Tom to return to his father, Mr. Allworthy would certainly reward him well. He said to Tom, "I see you have very little money now, sir, but things will change in the future. I am not asking for payment. Just let me travel with you as your friend." And so, taking a few clean shirts and leaving the rest of Tom's things locked up in Partridge's house, they set off. Tom was very pleased with Partridge's company, and the two walked along together until they came to Gloucester. Here they ate dinner in an inn, and then Tom decided to continue walking through the night. The clock struck 5 as the pair left Gloucester. As it was the middle of winter, it was dark, but a bright moon gave them light. Tom remembered some romantic poems about the moon. Partridge added some comments in Latin, and they travelled on for about 5 miles in this way. Suddenly, Tom stopped and said, "Who knows, Partridge? The loveliest lady in all the world may be looking at that moon this very moment." "Perhaps, sir," said Partridge. "But if you wish to have your lady in your arms again, why don't we go back now?" "If you wish to go back," said Tom, "I will thank you and give you some money. But I am determined to go on." "Then I am determined to follow you," said Partridge. They walked on through the cold night, and when the sun came up, they found a place on a hill to sleep. Tom was the first to wake. From a wood below the hill came a woman's violent screams. Tom listened for a moment, then ran down the hill and into the wood. There he saw a shocking sight. A woman, half naked, with a belt around her neck, and a man who was trying to hang her from a tree. Tom asked no questions, but took his stick and beat the man to the ground. He continued beating him until the woman begged him to stop. The poor thing then fell to her knees and thanked him, As he lifted her up, she said, "You must be a good angel." Indeed, he was a charming figure, and if an angel has youth, health, strength, freshness, spirit, and good nature, then Tom certainly looked like one. The woman looked less like an angel. She was middle-aged, and not much of a beauty, but in her torn clothes she looked very attractive to Tom. They stood in silence until the man on the ground began to move. Looking at his face, Tom was greatly surprised to see that it was Mr. Northerton. Tom took Northerton's belt and tied his hands behind him. Then he helped him to his feet, saying, "Northerton, do you remember me? You insulted me and nearly killed me. Fortune has brought us together again, for me to punish you." Tom asked the woman where she could get some clothes, but she said she was a stranger in that part of the country. Tom then told them both to wait while he looked for help. When he returned, unsuccessful, the woman was alone. Though Northerton's hands were tied, his feet were free, and he had walked off through the wood. "Do not spend time looking for him," begged the woman. "Please, take me to the nearest town." Jones offered her his coat to cover herself with, but for some reason she absolutely refused it. "Then I will walk in front of you, and will not offend you by looking back," said Tom. And though he did try to keep looking ahead, the lady often asked him to turn around to help her. And so our hero brought his companion safely into the town of Upton. When they arrived, Tom took the lady to the best inn in the street and asked for a room upstairs. As they followed a servant up to the room, the landlord shouted, "Hey, where's that beggar woman going? Come downstairs." "Leave the lady alone," cried Tom from above. Then, leaving his companion in her room, he returned downstairs to ask the landlady to send her up some clothes. Now, the inn at which our travellers had arrived was very respectable. Good ladies from Ireland and the north of England liked to stay there on their way to Bath. While the landlady could not expect every conversation that took place under her roof to be perfectly innocent, she did not want the inn to get a bad name. Tom and his half-naked companion must go before they harmed her reputation. The landlady had picked up a heavy kitchen pot and was just about to go upstairs when Tom came in, asking for some clothes. As they stood there, the landlord arrived, calling the lady upstairs all the bad names he could think of. Tom hit the landlord. The landlady lifted her pot to hit Tom, and at this moment Partridge walked in, glad to find Tom again. Seeing the danger, Partridge caught hold of the landlady's arm. She turned and knocked him to the ground. The sound of a carriage and horses outside put a sudden stop to this bloody war. The landlord and his wife rushed out to meet the new guests. A young lady and her maid had arrived, and were taken upstairs to the best room. Tom rushed to pick up faithful Partridge from the floor, and sent him outside to wash his bloody nose at the water-pump. Now the naked lady came down, asking about all the noise. She found a tablecloth to cover herself with. At this moment, a soldier arrived, demanding beer and somewhere to sleep. He noticed Tom's lady companion. "Madam," said the soldier in surprise, "are you not Captain Waters's lady? Have you had some kind of accident?" "I have indeed," said Mrs. Waters, "and I have to thank this gentleman for rescuing me." "Whatever this gentleman has done, my lady," said the soldier, "I am sure the captain will thank him for it, and if I can help you, please command me." Hearing these words, the landlady now rushed into the kitchen, apologizing to Mrs. Waters for her behaviour and offering her some clothes to wear.
"Oh, how could I know that a fashionable lady like you would appear in such rags?" she cried. "If I had suspected that my lady was my lady, I would have burned my tongue out before I said what I said."
Tom begged Mrs. Waters to forgive the landlady and to accept her clothes, and the two women went upstairs. Partridge soon came back, the landlord brought in beer, and perfect calm returned to the kitchen. Chapter 13. An inn's reputation is put at risk. Tom had not eaten for 24 hours. So when Mrs. Waters invited him to have dinner with her in her room, he was happy to accept. While 3 pounds of meat, which were once part of an animal, now became part of Tom, Mrs. Waters watched him, with other things on her mind. Now, Tom was really one of the handsomest young men in the world. His face was the picture of health, with signs of sweetness and good nature which were noticed by everyone who saw him. He was strong, active, gentle, and good-tempered, and people enjoyed his cheerful company. Mrs. Waters saw all this, and formed a very good opinion of him. In fact, she had fallen in love with Tom, and she wanted him to know it. How could she show him? First, she shot sharp looks from her 2 lovely blue eyes, but these only hit a piece of meat which Tom was then putting on his plate. Then a heavy sigh lifted her fair breasts, but its sweet sound was lost as he opened a bottle of beer. Many other tricks were tried, but while our hero was eating, hunger defended him against love. When dinner was over, the attack began again with a smile which showed more than just pretty white teeth. This smile our hero received with full force, and he began to see the enemy's plan. He defended himself weakly, trying to think about his fair Sophia, but his heart was soon captured by Mrs. Waters, and we will now politely leave the room. Meanwhile, the couple upstairs were the topic of conversation in the kitchen, where the landlord sat with his wife, Partridge, the soldier, and the carriage-driver. The soldier explained that Mrs. Waters was the wife of a captain, though some people said they were not actually married. People also said she was a good friend of Mr. Northerton's, though the captain knew nothing about that. The soldier then asked where Partridge and his master were travelling. "He's not my master," said Partridge. "We are friends. Amicum sumus. I am a school-teacher, and he is one of the greatest gentlemen in the country."
"Then why does such a great gentleman walk about the country on foot?" asked the landlord.
"I really don't know," answered Partridge.
"He has a dozen horses and servants in Gloucester,
but last night he decided to walk." The soldier then began to drink to the king, and after a while he suggested a fight. The carriage-driver agreed to fight for a bet, and the two took off their shirts and fought each other fiercely, until the soldier won. The young lady who had been resting upstairs now sent down orders for her carriage to be prepared, as she was ready to continue her journey. Impossible. To speak plainly, the carriage-driver was now completely drunk. So was the soldier. Partridge was not much better. The landlady was called to take tea upstairs to Mr. Jones and Mrs. Waters, and she told them this news.
"She is such a sweet, pretty lady," she said, "and in such a hurry to leave. I am sure she is in love and running away to meet a young gentleman."
At these words, Tom sighed heavily. Mrs. Waters noticed.
She suspected she might have a rival, but she did not mind. Tom's beauty charmed her eyes, but because she could not see his heart, she did not worry about it. Nor did she bother to tell him about her own situation. Though Tom was careful not to ask her questions which might embarrass her, the reader will surely want to know. So here are the real facts. This lady had lived for some years with Captain Waters, pretending to be his wife and using his name. I am sorry to say she was also very friendly with Mr. Northerton. It was a friendship that did her reputation no good. When Northerton threw the bottle which hit Tom's head, he thought it had killed him. He escaped punishment by running off into the night, and it was to Mrs. Waters that he ran. Captain Waters was away at that time, so Mrs. Waters agreed to help Northerton to get away to a seaport where he could escape abroad. She offered to walk with him to a place where he could get a horse, and she said she would give him some of her money. Northerton noticed that she had £90 in her purse and a diamond ring on her finger, and he made another plan. When they reached a lonely wood, he suddenly took off his belt, grabbed the poor woman, and tried to kill her. It was at this moment that our hero had arrived to rescue her. It was now midnight, and everyone was in bed except Susan, the kitchen maid, who was washing the kitchen floor. Suddenly, a gentleman on horseback arrived and rushed into the kitchen to ask if there was a lady in the inn. The late hour and his wild behaviour surprised Susan, but when the gentleman said he was looking for his wife, she immediately thought he was Mr. Waters. She accepted some money from the gentleman and took him upstairs to Mrs. Waters's room. In the polite world, a gentleman always knocks before he enters his wife's bedroom. This gentleman did knock, but in such a violent way that the door flew open and he fell into the room. As he got to his feet again, he saw, we admit it with shame and sorrow, our hero himself in bed, demanding to know the reason for this rude behaviour. The gentleman was about to apologize when he saw, in the moonlight, various pieces of a woman's clothing on the floor. In a jealous rage, he rushed to the bed. Tom jumped out of the bed to stop him, and now Mrs. Waters, for we must confess she was in the same bed, began to scream, "Murder! Robbery!" until the guest in the next room rushed in to help. This guest was an Irishman who was on his way to Bath. He stood at the door, holding a candle in one hand and his sword in the other. He looked at the furious gentleman and cried out, "Mr. Fitzpatrick, what is the meaning of this?" The gentleman immediately answered,
"Oh, Mr. McLachlan, I am glad you are here. This devil is in bed with my wife."
"Your wife?" cried Mr. McLachlan. "I know Mrs. Fitzpatrick very well, and I don't see her here." Fitzpatrick now looked more closely at the lady in the bed and saw his unfortunate mistake. He began to apologize. At that moment, the landlady came in, and Mrs. Waters quickly called out to her, "What kind of place is this? All these men have broken into my room to rob me." Fitzpatrick, hanging down his head, explained his mistake, apologized again, and left with his friend. Tom explained that he had rushed in to help Mrs. Waters when he heard all the noise. "Thank God my reputation is not ruined," cried the landlady. "There has never been a robbery in my inn. Only good, honest people come here." And she returned downstairs. And what about Mr. Fitzpatrick? After he had disturbed the house in this unfortunate way, the reader will find it hard to believe he was a gentleman. Mr. Fitzpatrick was indeed born a gentleman, but without any money. Luckily, he had married a young woman with a fortune. He was cruel to his wife, but generous with her fortune. Now he had spent it all, and she had run away. Mr. Fitzpatrick had followed his wife, and was sure he would find her in the inn at Upton. After his terrible mistake, he never thought she might be in another room. Tired and disappointed, he accepted Mr. McLachlan's kind offer to share his bed for the rest of the night.
Chapter 14. The Ring on His Pillow. The landlady went downstairs to talk to Susan about the night's events, and Partridge, who was always looking for a chance to drink and talk, joined them in the kitchen. After a while, 2 new people arrived at the inn, 2 young women in riding clothes. One of them was so richly dressed that Partridge crept into a corner to admire her. The lady in the rich clothes asked if she could warm herself at the kitchen fire. She didn't want to eat, and said they could only stay an hour or 2 because they were in a hurry. The landlady sent Susan upstairs to light a fire in a bedroom where the lady could rest. When the lady was settled in the bedroom, her hungry maid came back downstairs to the kitchen and ordered a chicken. Now the chicken was still alive, and the maid was hungry. The landlady suggested other meat, but the maid was as delicate as a queen about her food.
"Indeed," she said, "I believe this is the first time I have ever sat in a kitchen to eat. I am glad there are no poor people here. You, sir, look like a gentleman."
Yes, yes, madam, cried Partridge. I am a gentleman. I am here with the son of great Mr. Allworthy of Somerset.
"I know Mr. Allworthy very well," said the maid, "and I know that he has no son alive."
This confused Partridge a little, but he answered,
Well, madam, not everybody knows this, for Mr. Allworthy was never married to the mother, but Mr. Jones is certainly his son.
"You surprise me, sir," cried the maid. "Mr. Jones is in this inn?"
and she rushed upstairs. Sophia, for this was the richly dressed young lady, was resting with her lovely head on her hand when her maid entered the room, crying,
"Madam, who do you think is here?"
Sophia sat up and cried,
"Not my father." "No, madam,"
said Honor, the maid.
"It is Mr. Jones."
Sophia sent Honor back to the kitchen to ask Mr. Jones's friend to wake him immediately. Partridge refused.
My friend went to bed very late.
"I promise he will not be angry,"
Honor insisted.
Another time, answered Partridge. One woman at a time is enough for any reasonable man.
He then told Honor directly, for he was more than a little drunk, that Jones was in bed with another woman. When Honor told Sophia this, she did not believe it. At that moment, Susan came in to check the fire. Sophia asked her what she knew, and, with the help of some money from Sophia, the story came out. Then Susan said,
"If you like, madam, I can creep into the young man's room and see if he is in his own bed."
Sophia agreed, so she did this, and came back to say that Tom's bed was empty. Then Susan said that Mr. Jones had told everybody about Sophia.
"He told us, madam, that you were dying of love for him, but he was going to the war to get rid of you. But how could he leave such a fine, rich, beautiful lady as you to be with another man's wife?"
Sophia sent Susan downstairs to order the horses. Then she burst into tears. After some time, she thought of a way to punish Tom. She gave Honor her favourite ring, and asked her to leave it on the pillow in Tom's empty room. She then paid her bill, and rode away with her maid. It was now past 5 in the morning. During the night, the other young lady, deciding not to wait for her carriage-driver, had left the inn on horseback with her maid. Other people were now waking up.
Tom returned to his room to get dressed, and called Partridge.
"Oh, sir," cried Partridge, "why should any man go to these horrida bella, these bloody wars, when he can go home and have everything he needs?"
"Partridge, you are a coward," cried Tom. "You may go home if you wish, but I will not."
"Then I will stay," said Partridge, "for you need me. Why, last night I protected you from 2 wicked women. And see, one of them was in your room, for there is her ring."
"Oh, heavens! It is Sophia's!" cried Tom. "Is she here?"
"She was, sir," said a frightened Partridge, "but by now she will be many miles away."
"Then we will leave immediately," cried Tom. Downstairs, Mr. Fitzpatrick and his friend, Mr. McLachlan, were making arrangements for a carriage to take them to Bath. At that moment, shouting loudly, a man arrived on horseback with several companions. It was Sophia's father. Mr. Weston was asking loud questions about his daughter when Tom came downstairs with Sophia's ring in his hand.
"My daughter's ring!"
shouted Weston.
"Where is she?"
"It is her ring," said Tom, "but I have not seen her."
"He is a liar!" cried Mr. Fitzpatrick, "for I caught him in bed with her, and, sir, I'll take you to her room."
Mr. Weston and Mr. Fitzpatrick rushed up the stairs together, and once again Mrs. Waters was disturbed by men bursting into her room. Mr. Weston was shocked, apologized, and rushed off to look for Sophia in the other rooms. Mrs. Waters now got dressed and prepared to leave. When it was clear that there were no young ladies in the inn, Mr. Weston cursed everybody, ordered his horses, and rode off with his companions. Mr. Fitzpatrick invited Mrs. Waters to travel to Bath in his carriage. Tom paid his bill and set off on foot with Mr. Partridge. And that was the end of Tom's adventures at Upton. Chapter 15. Sophia finds a place to stay. When Sophia and Honor left Upton, they asked their guide to travel towards London. They had just crossed a river when they heard the sound of horses behind them. Sophia ordered the guide to travel faster. Faster still came the horses behind them, and soon they were overtaken. The travellers who joined Sophia were also a lady, her maid, and a guide. Very politely, the 2 parties agreed to travel together. They rode steadily, without speaking, until daylight came. Then the 2 ladies, who were riding side by side, looked at each other and said with one breath, "Sophia! Harriet!" The wise reader will not be surprised to learn that the lady whom Sophia recognized was Mrs. Fitzpatrick, for she had indeed been staying in the inn they had just left. What will surprise you is that Harriet Fitzpatrick was Sophia's cousin. They had once lived together with their aunt, Mrs. Weston, and were dear friends until Harriet had run away to marry Mr. Fitzpatrick at the age of 18. In the afternoon they stopped at an inn to eat and rest. Sophia, who had not been to bed for 2 nights, slept until after the sun went down. When she woke, she ordered tea and told Harriet that she was travelling to London. Her cousin agreed to accompany her. She had planned to go to Bath, or to stay with her Aunt Weston, but her husband's sudden arrival at the inn in Upton had changed her mind. Sophia now felt so fresh that she suggested leaving immediately. It was a clear night, and not too cold. Harriet begged her to wait until morning, so the 2 cousins stayed the night in the inn and exchanged stories. Harriet's story was so tragic that when dinner came, Sophia could hardly eat. Harriet had suffered from cruelty, jealousy, and terrible unhappiness, but her appetite seemed excellent, and she stopped for a while to enjoy her meal. Then she finished her story. "Mr. Fitzpatrick wanted the last of my money. He never beat me, But he did lock me in my room. I had no pen, no paper, no books, just a servant to make my bed every day and bring me food. I was desperate. But by very good fortune, well, I will not tire you with the details. I managed to escape. I made my way to Dublin, took a boat to England, and was travelling to Bath when I stopped at Upton. My husband overtook me there last night, but though I heard him, he did not find me. Sophia gave a sigh. It was now time to tell her story, which she did, and I hope the reader will excuse me repeating. I will say one thing. She never mentioned to end. Never mentioned take. Very late that evening, an Irish lord arrived at the inn. Learning that Mrs. Fitzpatrick was upstairs, he sent the landlord up with a message. Harriet seemed very pleased to receive the message, and invited the lord to visit them immediately. He seemed to be a very special friend. He was a neighbour of Harriet's in Ireland, and in fact it was with his help that she had managed to escape from her husband. But for some reason she had not given this information to Sophia. The lord seemed surprised that Harriet was not in Bath. He very politely offered to take the two ladies to London in his carriage. Harriet accepted instantly. When the lord left, Harriet spoke warmly about him and his love for his wife, saying she believed he was the most faithful husband she knew. Then it was time for sleep. Next morning, the ladies paid their guides, and it was then that Sophia discovered she had lost something. It was a banknote which her father had given her to buy her wedding clothes. She searched everywhere, but the note was not to be found, and she realized she must have dropped it on the road when she pulled a handkerchief from her pocket. The ladies and their maids now got into the lord's carriage and set off, accompanied by many servants. They travelled 90 miles in 2 days, and on the second evening arrived in London. They were taken to the lord's house. As his wife was not in town, Harriet absolutely refused his invitation to stay in the house, and lodgings were found for her. Sophia spent one night with her cousin, but next day sent a note to Lady Bellaston, the relative she had met at her aunt's house. She was immediately invited to stay with her. Harriet seemed happy for Sophia to leave her alone, and Sophia began to suspect the reason. She tried to give her cousin some wise advice. "Consider what a dangerous situation you are in, my dear. You are a married woman, and your friend's wife is not here. People will gossip." Harriet was amused, and said, "I will visit you soon, dear Sophie. Now, please try to forget your country ideas." So Sophia went to Lady Bellaston's house, where she found a warm welcome. Lady Bellaston promised to give her all the protection which it was in her power to give. And as we have now brought our heroine into safe hands, we can leave her there for a while, and return to poor Tom. Chapter 16. Rich Food. When Tom and his companion Partridge left Upton, they marched with heavy hearts, though for different reasons. They came to a crossroads, and Tom asked